Hi everybody, this is Laura, your yoga teacher, and today I'll be guiding you through a wall yin yoga practice using the wall as a primary prop. Now to set up your space, you'll need to have a wall, and preferably a wall that has a fair amount of space to it, not a narrow bit of space, because you're going to want to spread out a little bit. And something to put on the ground, a yoga mat or a towel. A towel can be fine, or a blanket, but if you're on a hard floor, like a hardwood or concrete floor, you might want a little bit more cushioning, so maybe double up on the towel, or just set your yoga mat, but whatever you've got. The rectangle-shaped thing you'll be laying on, put the short end flush up against the wall, just like in the picture. It's also helpful to have some blocks or cushions, or maybe a folded-up blanket that you can use to support your body. The first posture that we'll be getting into is called wall caterpillar. Sometimes it's called legs up the wall. To get into this pose, scoot up as close as you can to the wall with your back on the mat or towel. If you find you're having trouble getting close to the wall, what I recommend you do is roll over onto your side, then scoot your butt right up against the wall, and then come right onto your back again. Extend your legs up the wall, and allow a little bit of space between your feet. Not too much, no wider than your hips, but a little space is fine. And if you want to leave a little bit of a bend in your knees, that's okay too. You don't do the pose any better if you've got your whole back of your leg flush up against the wall, so don't worry about that. If this is hurting your low spine, you can put a folded up towel or blanket underneath your hips, or a block will do. And we'll hold this pose for a couple of minutes. Now to come out of this pose, start to slowly draw your knees toward your chest. Take your time. You don't want to get in or out of these poses too quickly. And then what you can do to release your body from the pose is to hug your knees toward your chest. Now, if this doesn't feel comfortable, you can skip it, but some people find that it's helpful. If you can keep the back of your head on the mat without lifting your head, you don't want to roll into a ball, you can hug your knees in between the poses. Well, let's move back into our wall caterpillar position for the next pose. This pose is called wall butterfly. So extend your legs up the wall and then open your knees wide. You want to slide your feet together. So bring your soles of your feet toward each other. Now, for some people, especially if you have tight hips, this might not be comfortable at first. So please realize you can dial up or down the intensity of this pose by sliding your feet up or down the wall, increasing the space between your feet and your hips. Again, don't worry if your knees aren't touching the wall. That hardly ever happens anyway, so your knees can be lifted off the wall. And if you need a little extra support, you can grab your props that you have nearby, whether they're blocks or cushions, and you can tuck them underneath your thighs where the arrow is pointing on the image. And that'll help hold your legs in place. And that's okay if you're doing that. You can keep your arms on the floor next to you or rest them on your torso. Maybe have one hand on your heart, one hand on your belly. Some people find that comfortable. And we'll hold this pose for a couple of minutes as well. Just relax, follow your breath, and close your eyes if you feel comfortable doing so. If your eyes are closed, flutter your eyes open. And to come out of this pose, place your hands on the outsides of your thighs and bring your knees toward each other like you were closing a large book. Again, you can hug your knees into your chest if you did that after the first pose we did. And take as much time as you need. Just observe what you're feeling in your body. For the next pose, which is called wall dragonfly, slide your legs up the wall again like we did in caterpillar. Extend your legs completely. And then separate your feet as wide as is comfortable. Now this may not be very wide. Again, if your hips are tight or if you have any sort of pain in your knees or your hips or any part of your lower back, this may not be comfortable to separate your feet very far. That's okay. Don't worry about that. You're not doing the posture any better or worse depending on how far your feet are. If you can separate your feet wide, like the yogi in the picture, that's okay too. And again, you can use your props to support your thighs if you did so in the last pose. Remember, a soft bend in your knee is okay. You don't have to lock your knees out. Relax your feet. No need to flex your feet or toes. And if you find that after a minute or two you can separate your feet a little bit wider, go ahead and do that. In Yin Yoga, we encourage as much stillness as possible, but that doesn't mean you have to be motionless. If you need to adjust your body or fidget a little bit to get more comfortable, that is totally okay. If these postures are challenging, just focus on your breath. Focus on deep inhales and long exhales. If the posture is painful, then it's okay to get out of it. just as we did with the last pose, butterfly, we'll come out of dragonfly a similar way. Place your hands on your thighs or behind your knees and use your hands to bring your knees toward your chest. So you don't have to slide your feet back together, unless you've already done that, that's okay. But sometimes it's okay to just use your hands to bend your knees and draw your knees into your chest and give your knees a hug. For the next pose, what you'll do is keep your knees bent and bring the soles of your feet against the wall. So it's kind of like you're sitting in a chair or sitting in a chair that fell backwards. Hopefully that never happens. But your feet are against the wall and your knees are bent. If the bend in your knee is too much, you can scoot yourself a little farther away from the wall, increase the space between you and the wall. But if you don't need to, you can stay right where you are. This is called thread the needle. You'll bend one knee and cross that ankle over the opposite knee, kind of like a figure 4 position. And then you'll hold this for a couple of minutes. And I'll let you know when it's time to switch. And if you find it's challenging to hold your legs in this position, you can take one of your props, a pillow or blanket, and you can place it under the knee that's closest to your body, the one that's bent, the ankle is bent over your thigh, and that'll help hold that leg into place. Relax your arms, relax your face, and just focus on your breath. Bring your awareness back into your body as we prepare to switch. Uncross your ankle from your knee, place the sole of that foot against the wall, and then switch to the other side. And again, if you need to support your leg, just take your towel or pillow and place it under your opposite thigh for support. You may notice that one side may feel quite different from the other. That's totally normal. It happens very often. And we just hold it for the same length of time to get maximum results. And just like we did on the first side, uncross your leg, place the soles of your feet against the wall just to rebalance your hips. And now we'll come into a little bit of a transition into the next pose. So as you hug your knees toward your chest, roll over onto one side, and then come all the way onto your belly. Now as you come onto your belly, keep your knees bent and slide yourself back toward the wall so that your shins and tops of your feet are up against the wall. You're lying on your belly, and your shins are up against the wall. And we call this pose wall Sphinx. So if you've ever done Sphinx or Cobra or upward facing dog, it's similar. But the difference is that you will keep your arms folded in front of you, kind of like when a kid is going to sleep at nap time in kindergarten, right? You'll fold your arms and rest your forehead on your arms. If you find that this is a little too much on your low back, you can slide a little farther away from the wall. And if you'd like a little bit more of a stretch feeling in your low back, you can place a prop under your forehead for a little more elevation. You can also experiment with the amount of space between your feet. You can slide your feet further apart or closer together. To come out of your Sphinx pose, place your forearms on the mat directly in front of you with your fingers pointing away from you, kind of like a Sphinx that you've seen, pictures of the Sphinx. You're going to lift your head up. Now you have an option here. This is optional. If you want to spread your fingers wide and press into your palms so that your elbows lift up off the mat, lift your chest up. This is called seal pose. And this might be too intense for you, or it might feel just right, but give it a try if you like. And then for our last pose, on your exhale, lower back down and roll onto your back. Take your time. You'll need to slide away from the wall so you can extend your legs fully. Come onto your back for Pentacle Pose. Pentacle Pose is very similar to a pose we call Shavasana, or corpse pose, that we often do at the end of yoga classes. Pentacle Pose, as the name suggests, is a little bit wider. You spread out your arms wide away from your body like a star, and you slide your feet as far as is comfortable. And if that's off the mat, that's okay. Allow your whole body to make contact with the floor beneath you. You can flip your palms up to relax your elbows. Let your toes point away from your body to relax your knees and ankles. You have the option here to do a full body scan just to check in and see if you're holding on to any residual tension in your body. Feel free to use props if you like under your knees, or maybe a folded up blanket under your head. If you would like me to guide you out of your pentacle pose, I'll do so now. Of course, you are welcome to stay if you need more time. If you're ready to come out, wiggle your toes, roll your heels from side to side, brush your thumb against your fingertips. Maybe let your head fall from one side to the other very slowly. Swallow a couple of times, blink your eyes open, and then start to bring a bend into one knee, then the other. Roll over to one side. Pause here if you like. When you're ready, press yourself up to a seat. And end class whichever way feels comfortable for you. You can thank yourself in your head for making the time to practice today. If you want to place your palms together, you can do that. Thank you so much for allowing me to guide you through this practice. I hope you feel good, and I'll see you next time.